Chapter 1. Chained Fate. A sharp, throbbing pain pulsed in Riven's head as he slowly opened his eyes. His body felt heavy, his limbs sluggish as if he had been drugged. The ceiling above him was unfamiliar, smooth, high, and adorned with an intricate chandelier that gleamed under the soft lighting. He blinked, trying to focus, but a stronger realization sent a shiver down his spine. He couldn't move. Riven's wrists were bound to the headboard with thick, silver-lined cuffs. His ankles were restrained as well, though the chains allowed minimal movement. He pulled at them with all his strength, but they didn't budge. Where the hell was he? His breathing quickened as his golden eyes darted around the room. It was massive, luxurious, elegant, but cold. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, their reflection revealing his own disheveled state. He was in a king-sized bed, shirtless, wearing only sweatpants. Panic clawed at his chest. Think, Riven, think. How did you get here? But his mind was blank. No memories of the past few hours, days. Hell, he wasn't sure how long he'd been unconscious. His last clear memory was... what? His daily routine? His life before this moment? Why was everything so fragmented? Before he could process further, the door clicked open. A tall man stepped inside. Riven's breath hitched as his sharp eyes locked onto the stranger. Except, he wasn't a stranger. His entire being reacted instantly. His wolf stirred inside him, recognizing something primal, something familiar. The man was devastatingly handsome, with striking silver-blue eyes and dark, perfectly styled hair. His presence filled the room with an intimidating aura, exuding power, control, possession. The man stopped at the foot of the bed, gazing down at him with an unreadable expression. Then, a smirk curved his lips. "You're awake, Riven?" His voice was deep, rich, sending an unsettling shiver down Riven's spine. Who was he? No, Riven's instinct screamed that he knew this man. His scent, his presence, even the way he said his name. But why couldn't he remember? "Who the hell are you?" Riven snarled, yanking against his restraints. "Why am I here?" The man's smirk didn't waver. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, until he was right next to the bed. "You don't remember me, do you?" he murmured, tilting his head slightly as if studying him. Riven glared at him. "Why should I?" For a split second, something flickered in the man's eyes. Something dark, something dangerous. Then, he leaned down, one hand gripping the headboard near Riven's head as he whispered, "Because, Riven." His breath was warm against Riven's skin, his scent intoxicatingly close. "You're mine." Riven froze. His wolf, his very instincts, recoiled and yet craved the words at the same time. His heart pounded in his chest, a mix of confusion and something dangerously close to familiarity. "Liar!" he spat, refusing to believe it. The man chuckled, low and deep. "Oh, my love, you may have forgotten me, but I could never forget you." Riven's body tensed as the man straightened, his eyes burning with an obsessive intensity. "My name is Dante Moreau," he said, his voice carrying an unshakable certainty. "And you are my fated mate, stolen from me, lied to, hidden away, but I found you." Riven's mind spun, the words hitting him like a shockwave. "That's impossible," he whispered, his breath uneven. "I don't know you." Dante's smirk faded slightly. He reached out, cupping Riven's jaw with surprising gentleness. His thumb brushed against Riven's lower lip, making him flinch at the unexpected touch. "Then, I'll make you remember," Dante vowed, his voice laced with an obsessive promise. "Even if I have to keep you here forever." Riven's blood ran cold. He wasn't just a captive. He was claimed. And something told him. Escaping Dante Moreau wouldn't be easy. Chapter 2. Shattered Memories. Riven's wrists ached from struggling against the chains. He had spent hours, maybe longer, trying to break free, but the silver lining in the cuffs weakened his strength. His wolf was restless, pacing inside him, but he couldn't shift. Whatever Dante had done to him, it was working. The door opened again. Dante stepped in, looking as composed as ever, dressed in a crisp black shirt with the top buttons undone. His silver blue eyes locked onto Riven with an intensity that made his breath hitch. Still resisting, I see. Dante's voice was smooth, almost amused. Let me go, Riven growled. I don't care what fantasy you've built in your head. I don't know you. Dante exhaled slowly, as if he were dealing with a stubborn child. He walked over to a small table in the corner, poured a glass of water, and returned to Riven's side. Drink. Riven turned his head away, but Dante grabbed his chin, forcing him to look at him. I'm not going to hurt you, Riven. There was something disturbingly soft in his voice. I would never hurt you. Riven scoffed. Then why the hell am I chained to a bed? Dante's grip tightened ever so slightly before he let go. Because you don't remember me. And until you do, I can't risk losing you again. There was something in his tone, something raw and desperate, hidden beneath the possessiveness. Riven hated the way it made his chest tighten. You sound insane, Riven muttered. Dante chuckled, setting the glass down on the nightstand before leaning in dangerously close. Maybe I am, but only when it comes to you. Riven's body betrayed him, heat pooling in his stomach at the way Dante's voice wrapped around those words. He hated it. You keep saying I was stolen from you, Riven said, forcing his focus back. Prove it. Dante's smirk widened slightly. Gladly. He stood up and walked over to a nearby cabinet, unlocking it with a key. He pulled out a small velvet box and returned to Riven's side. When he flipped it open, Riven's breath hitched. A silver ring. Simple, elegant, but something inside him twisted at the sight of it. His fingers curled involuntarily, his wolf stirring. You wore this every day, Dante murmured. It was a promise, Riven, a bond between us. Riven's head ached. Flashes of something, someone, flickered in the back of his mind. A warm smile, a soft laugh, fingers interlaced with his. His chest tightened, but the memories were too blurred, too fragmented. I don't remember, he said, though his voice was weaker than before. Dante sighed, closing the box. You will. He set it aside before reaching into his pocket and pulling out his phone. He swiped through the screen before turning it toward Riven. A picture. Riven's breath caught. It was him, in someone's arms. Dante's arms. His younger self, looking carefree and happy, smiling up at Dante with nothing but love in his eyes. Dante was pressing a kiss against his temple, his own expression filled with unguarded affection. Riven's heart pounded. That's not possible, he whispered. It's the truth, Dante said, his voice softer now. You were mine, Riven. You are mine. And I'm going to bring you back to me, no matter what it takes. Riven clenched his fists. A war raged inside him. Logic screamed at him to fight, to resist, but something deeper, something buried within, was cracking. Because if Dante was lying, then why did it hurt so much to look at that picture? Chapter 3. Truth's Lies. Riven sat stiffly on the bed, his wrists now free but his legs still bound with silver-lined cuffs. Dante had unchained him partially after their last conversation, a silent show of trust, but Riven knew better. This wasn't freedom. This was Dante testing him, waiting for him to remember. The problem was, he was remembering. Not all at once, not in clear, defined memories, but in fragments. The ring, the picture, the way Dante said his name. It all sparked something inside him, something he wasn't ready to face. Dante entered the room again, carrying a tray of food. The scent of roasted chicken and herbs filled the air and Riven's stomach twisted in hunger. You haven't eaten much, Dante noted as he placed the tray beside him. Riven looked away. I don't trust you, Dante chuckled, sitting on the edge of the bed. You used to. That was a different Riven. No, Dante said firmly. That was you, before they took everything from us. Riven gritted his teeth, unwilling to give in, but then Dante pulled out another weapon against him. A notebook. He recognized it immediately. The worn leather cover, the slight bend in the pages. His heart lurched. Where did you get that? Riven whispered. Dante opened it carefully, flipping through the pages. You wrote this. Every thought, every dream, every moment that made you happy. And you wrote about me. Riven clenched his fists as Dante read aloud. Dante kissed me under the stars today. I think my heart almost exploded. How can someone love me this much? His own words felt foreign yet painfully familiar. A rush of warmth spread through his chest, but he fought it down. Stop, Riven demanded. Dante ignored him, flipping another page. I want to spend forever with him. I want to wake up in his arms, go to sleep to the sound of his voice. If fate exists, then he is mine. Riven's breath shuddered. The memories were no longer just shadows. They were voices, touches, emotions that clawed their way to the surface. He saw flashes of a younger Dante smiling at him over coffee, holding his hand as they walked through a crowded street, whispering, I love you against his lips. His stepmother's voice cut through the memories, sharp and cruel. You don't belong with him. He's dead, Riven. He's gone. But Dante was here, and so was Riven. Tears burned at the edges of his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. You're lying, he whispered weakly, but even he didn't believe it anymore. Dante reached for his hand, threading their fingers together. The touch was warm, grounding. I'm not, Dante murmured. You were stolen from me, Riven, but I found you, and I'll never let anyone take you away again. Riven didn't pull away this time. Because, for the first time since waking up in this penthouse, he wasn't sure if he wanted to. Chapter 4. Breaking the Chains. Riven stood by the massive floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse, staring at the city lights below. It had been weeks, months maybe, since he first woke up here chained and confused. But things had changed. He was no longer bound. He was no longer Dante's prisoner. And yet, he was still here. A part of him wanted to leave, to reclaim his life, but another part, a deeper, more instinctual part, told him that this was his life, that Dante wasn't the villain in his story. You're thinking too much again. Riven turned to find Dante standing near the entrance of the room, holding 2 glasses of wine. His sharp suit was slightly loosened, his silver blue eyes watching him with something softer than before. I don't trust you, Riven said, though the words carried less venom than before. Dante smirked. Then why are you still here? Riven hated that he didn't have an answer. Dante walked over, handing him a glass. Riven hesitated before taking it. Tell me the truth, Dante. No games, no half-truths. His fingers tightened around the glass. What really happened to me? Dante exhaled, setting his drink down before running a hand through his dark hair. Your stepmother tried to kill you. Riven stiffened, his heart pounding against his ribs. You and I were together in college. We were happy. We were planning our future. But she couldn't stand that. She wanted me for her daughter. When I refused, she arranged your accident. A flash of memory, cold metal, the sound of tires screeching, the crushing impact of glass shattering against his skin. You survived, but she told me you were dead. And she sent you away before you could remember anything. Riven's breath grew uneven. She made me think I was crazy, he whispered, gripping the wine glass so tightly he thought it might break. She erased everything. My past, my love for you. But she couldn't erase me. Dante's voice was unwavering. I never stopped searching, Riven. And when I found you, he stepped closer, lifting Riven's chin so their eyes met. I swore I'd never let anyone take you away from me again. Riven's chest ached with something he couldn't name. His mind still fought against Dante, against the truth, but his body, his soul, it had already surrendered. Months later, Riven sat in the garden of Dante's private estate, the cool breeze ruffling his hair. His memories had returned piece by piece over the past months. First in flashes, then in dreams, until finally everything had fallen into place. His childhood, his love for Dante, the accident, the lies. You remember now, don't you? Dante's voice broke through his thoughts. Riven looked up at him, eyes filled with something raw. I do. Dante knelt beside him, his hands resting gently on Riven's knees. And do you hate me for keeping you here? Riven sighed, running a hand through his hair. I should, but you don't. Riven met his gaze. No, I don't. Dante's lips curled into a small smile, but there was hesitation in his eyes, as if he was still afraid Riven would leave. But Riven wouldn't, not anymore. He leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss to Dante's lips. It was hesitant at first, but when Dante pulled him closer, deepening the kiss, Riven melted into it. Because this was where he belonged. It's time, Riven murmured against Dante's lips. Dante pulled back slightly, brows furrowing. For what? Riven's golden eyes darkened with determination. To face the people who stole my life. Chapter 5. Vengeance Served Cold. The black car pulled up in front of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The air was thick with tension, and the only sound inside the vehicle was the steady hum of the engine. Riven sat in the passenger seat, his fingers curled into fists. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with rage. Months ago, he wouldn't have believed Dante. Wouldn't have believed that his own family had stolen his life, manipulated his memories, and thrown him away like garbage. But now he was ready to face them. Dante's hand covered his, warm and grounding. Are you sure you want to do this? Riven turned to him, his golden eyes burning with a fire that hadn't been there before. I need to hear it from their own mouths. His voice was steady, unwavering. And then, I want you to make them suffer. Dante's lips curled into a slow, satisfied smirk. Your wish is my command, love. Inside the warehouse, screams echoed. Riven's stepmother Helena and stepsister Vivian were tied to chairs in the center of the dimly lit space. Their once perfect appearance was ruined, hair disheveled, faces stained with tears and fear. They had been here for days, enduring Dante's silent, calculated torment. Riven stepped forward, his boots clicking against the concrete floor. The moment Helena saw him, her eyes widened in shock. Riven? She choked out as if she were seeing a ghost. Riven tilted his head, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. Disappointed to see me alive? Vivian whimpered, trying to shrink into herself. Helena, however, quickly masked her fear with a shaky attempt at manipulation. Riven, darling, this isn't you, she pleaded. That monster has poisoned your mind against us. We did everything for you. You tried to kill me, Riven interrupted coldly. Helena's face twisted. It was an accident. Lies. Riven took another step closer, his expression dark. You drugged me. You tampered with my car. You erased my memories and sold me off to some faraway place like I was nothing. His voice trembled, but not from weakness, from fury. And worst of all, you stole years from me, years I should have spent with Dante. Vivian burst into tears. I didn't, I just did what Mother told me to. Of course you did, Dante drawled lazily from behind Riven. You're just as pathetic as she is. Helena snapped, her fear twisting into rage. You think you deserve him? She spat at Dante. You ruined everything. If it weren't for you... Riven's hand struck across her face before she could finish. The slap echoed in the empty warehouse, leaving Helena stunned, her cheek burning red. You don't get to say his name, Riven hissed. Helena's breathing was ragged. She looked from Riven to Dante and back, realizing perhaps for the first time that she had lost. Riven turned to Dante, his voice calm, but laced with venom. I want them to suffer, Dante. More than they already have. Dante's smirk deepened, his silver blue eyes dark with satisfaction. Oh, my love, he murmured, stepping close and kissing Riven's temple. I was hoping you'd say that. He snapped his fingers. The doors opened, and Dante's men stepped inside. Their expressions were unreadable, but the restrained excitement in the air was undeniable. Do whatever you want with them, Dante ordered. Make sure they beg for mercy. Helena screamed, thrashing in her chair, but it was useless. The moment Dante's men approached, all pretense of power vanished. Vivian sobbed. Please, Riven. We're family. Riven met her teary eyes, completely unmoved. You stopped being my family the day you tried to replace me. Then he turned away, walking toward the exit with Dante beside him. Helena's screams grew louder as the doors shut behind them. Riven didn't look back. He never would. Chapter 6. Eternally Yours. A love written in fate. Months had passed since Riven's stepmother and stepsister had been dealt with. Since then, life had settled into something almost surreal. Peace. No more lies, no more threats. Just him and Dante. Riven stood on the balcony of their estate, the crisp evening breeze brushing against his skin. He was free. No chains, no doubts. Just the steady, reassuring presence of Dante beside him. "You're thinking again." Dante's deep voice interrupted his thoughts. Riven smirked. "Am I not allowed to?" Dante chuckled, wrapping an arm around Riven's waist, pulling him flush against his chest. "Not when you should be focusing on me." "Possessive much? Always, when it comes to you." Riven rolled his eyes but didn't pull away. He had come to accept that Dante's obsession wasn't something he could, or wanted, to fight. "Come with me," Dante whispered suddenly, taking his hand. "Where? You'll see. The proposal." Riven gasped as they arrived at the grand Moreau Estates garden. Thousands of twinkling lights adorned the trees, casting a golden glow over the beautifully decorated venue. The scent of roses filled the air, and a soft melody played in the background. And in the center, surrounded by an array of white roses, was a small stage. Dante led Riven onto it, his grip never loosening. "Dante," Riven's voice wavered. Then, in front of dozens of witnesses, business moguls, close friends, people who had once feared the cold and ruthless Dante Moreau, Dante knelt on one knee. The crowd fell into stunned silence. "Riven Hale," Dante said, his voice strong but filled with something rare, vulnerability. "From the moment I met you, you were mine. My mate, my love, my obsession. I lost you once, and I swore I would never lose you again. I don't just want to be your mate, I want to be your husband." Riven's breath hitched. Dante pulled out a ring, a breathtaking piece of platinum with a deep sapphire stone in the center, surrounded by diamonds. "Marry me, Riven. Let me love you, protect you, own you forever." Riven's eyes burned. This man, his enemy, his savior, his everything, was offering him not just love, but a future. A lifetime. Yes. His answer was barely above a whisper. 1,000 times yes. The moment the ring slid onto his finger, Dante pulled him into a deep, possessive kiss. The crowd erupted in cheers, but all Riven could feel was Dante. His fate, his forever, the grand wedding. The Moreau estate had never seen such a grand celebration. Every inch of the venue was decorated in silver and royal blue, symbolizing the bond between an Enigma and an Alpha. Riven stood at the altar in a sleek, custom-made white suit, a sapphire brooch pinned to his chest. His heart pounded as Dante approached in a black and silver suit, exuding power and dominance. When Dante reached him, he took Riven's hands, his thumb running over the wedding band, now resting beside the engagement ring. The vows were whispered, but the promise was unbreakable. "With this bond, I mark you as mine, forever," Dante declared, his fangs elongating. Riven tilted his head, exposing his neck in complete trust. The moment Dante's teeth sank into his skin, a wave of completion surged through him. Their bond ignited, unbreakable, eternal. He was Dante's, and Dante was his. The unexpected happy news. Months after the wedding, Riven woke up feeling strange. The scent of morning tea made his stomach churn, and the mere thought of food had him bolting to the bathroom. Dante was at his side in an instant, rubbing his back, his expression dark with worry. "You're sick. I'm calling the doctor." Riven groaned. "I'm fine, Dante, just—" He stopped, a sudden realization hitting him. No, it couldn't be. Dante must have sensed the shift in his emotions because his grip tightened. "Riven." Shakily, Riven turned to him, his golden eyes wide. "Dante, I think I'm pregnant." Silence. Then, in an instant, Dante scooped him up into his arms, his grip almost too tight. "Pregnant?" His voice was breathless. "You're carrying my child?" Riven swallowed hard, nodding. "Yes." Dante buried his face in Riven's neck, his body trembling. Then slowly he pulled back, his silver blue eyes blazing with something possessive, dangerous. "No one touches you," he growled. "No one stresses you. No one breathes near you without my permission." Riven blinked. "Dante, you're being—" "No," Dante interrupted, his hand resting protectively over Riven's stomach. "You are carrying our child. I won't let anything happen to either of you." Riven sighed, but smiled softly. "So this means you're happy?" Dante cupped his face, kissing him deeply before whispering against his lips. "Happy? No, love. I'm complete." And for the first time in forever, Riven believed it. A peaceful ever after. Despite Dante's overprotectiveness, Riven's pregnancy was filled with warmth and love. Dante refused to let him lift a finger, surrounding him with everything he could ever need. And when their child was finally born, a perfect little boy with his father's silver blue eyes and his mother's golden ones, Dante held him as if he were the most precious thing in existence. "Our family," Dante whispered, pressing a kiss to Riven's temple. "No one will ever take this from us again." Riven smiled, watching Dante hold their son with the same fierce love he had always given him. Their past had been painful, their love had been tested, but now they had forever.